Worship. Christmas is pagan worship. This is what we always hear every time Christmas is around the corner. But people want to deter us from celebrating Christmas. And it's not just about Christmas, it's about celebrating Christ, celebrating the incarnated God who came into this world to die for your sin and my sin and to bring reconciliation between you and God, to give us hope in the world to come. Now, back to their claim Christmas is pagan worship. It's true, absolutely not true. Christmas is not pagan worship. Now, what are the evidences they give? Number one, they say that the day December 25, nobody knows the day that Jesus was born, and that December 25 is actually a date where the Roman, pagans celebrate their God. And since Christianity began to grow, then the Christians felt like they should just situate Christmas on the day that existed already for a festival wide known. Now, personally, if this had been the case, that there is a day where the Roman, pagan worshippers have a day where they worship, and because they converted, it's a national occurrence, and Christianity now going to become a national occurrence, then decide to say, okay, the day we dedicate to a pagan god, we're now dedicating it to the one true God. I would not have a problem with it. But historically, that is still not the case. Christmas, has been celebrated. At least we have a man by the name Sextus Julius Africanus. I need to note the name down here. Has pointed out that as far back as the second century to the third century, Christians are already celebrating Christmas on December 25. Now, this is same December 25, some people said it is used for the Roman, pagan god called Sol Invictus, the festival of the unconquered sun. Historically, there is no evidence for this. What we have evidence historically for is that this Sol Invictus, the festival of the unconquered sun, is at various times in August, in October, and maybe sometimes early December. A couple of days ago, I also came across a video where someone said, December 25 is the date where the Roman pagan worship their idol called Saturnalia. And on further investigation, I found out that Saturnalia is the god of agriculture, fruitfulness, fertility, and stuffs like that. What do we have historical evidence for as far as Saturnalia is concerned? Is the fact that this pagan god is worshipped, the festival is done 14 days before the new year. And historically, the Roman calendar has 30 and 2 days in December. So if you remove 14, that would be like 14 days out of 32. Now, if you remove 14 days out of 32, you have the date around December 17 and December 18. This is what we have historical evidence for. Now, I must also point out that we have people like Emperor Julian, who rules about 3 years in the 3rd and 4th century of the Roman reign. And, he cried out publicly saying that the Roman pagan temple worship is significantly on the decline because of the rise of Christianity. This is to say that as at the 3rd and 4th century, Christianity is already growing and booming and rising. So instead of Christianity placing their own festival on the day of the Roman pagan festival or worship, reverse is the case. It is rather or more likely that the pagans who saw that Christianity is on the fast rise decided to say, okay, maybe we should also try to worship, create our festival, make it December 25, just so they can compete with Christianity. Now, why did Christian decide to say that December 25 is the day for Christmas? Don't forget, people like John Chrysostom, an early theologian and historian in church history, has pointed out that at least as far back as 2nd century to early 3rd century, this is a long-term tradition that Christian has been observing Christmas on December 25. Why is the question? The basis or the most solid evidence we have is that the early Christians believe that a very, very holy person, if someone is very holy, they are most likely going to go back to heaven on the very day that they were conceived. So if someone is conceived, uh January 15, then the person is going to also go back to heaven on January 15. So then the idea is, when was Jesus born? When was Jesus conceived? And based on theologies, based on what do you call it now? Based on observation of the season, it is believed that Jesus was conceived on March 25th. So count back to what do you call it now? 9 months after that, you have December 25. And so for that reason, the celebration of the birth, the death, the resurrection, and the incarnation of Christ was positioned on December 25th. Now, someone may say, but Christmas is not commanded in the Bible. Why are we celebrating Christmas? My answer to the person is that the festival is not mentioned in the Bible, but the concept, what we are celebrating, is in the Bible. Did God become man? Yes. Did he live as a man, go to the cross and died for your sin and my sin? Yes. If we choose to take one day to reflect on it, to share our faith, to celebrate, and to honor the great sacrifice that God has done, is there any law against it? No. So why not? Let's celebrate Christmas. Another idea is that there is a Jewish festival called the Feast of Dedication. It is called the Hanukkah popularly. Now, just of recent, they celebrated it just, I think, about 1 or 2 weeks ago. Now, this festival is not an Old Testament festival. It's not an Old Testament celebration. In fact, it started sometimes around 200 years before the birth of Jesus Christ, which means it was the period between the Old Testament and the New Testament that the occurrence that led to this festival started. Now, Jesus, when he was born and he was on this planet Earth, himself traveled down to Jerusalem to observe the Feast of Dedication. Again, this feast was not mentioned in the Old Testament, so you cannot say it is biblical, so to speak. But the fact that it doesn't come outrightly from the scripture does not mean it is against the scripture. It is rather in line with scripture, and because it's in line with scripture, even Jesus himself celebrated it. So, as Christians today, in that same order, you have the liberty, the freedom, in fact, the responsibility to sit down for a day, reflect, share the joy, the love, the peace, and the harmony that exists within the Christmas period. No other time in the whole of the year do you have the privilege that your boss will stay you to stay at home, to share this kind of love and celebration with your family and with the people around you. So share the love and don't let anybody hold your voice. Noise it abroad, noise it everywhere that Christ is coming to our world and that Jesus is the Lord. Thank you very much. God bless you.